Hello and welcome to Raj Sabha TV's special presentation on the cities of India. In this episode, we'll talk about the historic city of Amritsar, the city which has witnessed several eras, events and the rule of the empire. For long, it has been the locus of the rise of Sikh faith in the subcontinent, being witness to events at the time of freedom struggle and the pains of partition. Amritsar has once again risen to touch the heights of being a cultural and social melting pot of India. Amritsar is a tale of several narratives infused in one. Lying in northwest of India and in close proximity with India-Pakistan border, the city has always been an important transit point, even in the times of ancient Mauryan Empire, connecting the Ganga plains with northwest frontier through Uttarpad, an ancient avatar of today's Grand Trunk Road.
We are not clear about the earlier settlement. Perhaps in the adjoining you can see the antiquity of certain Buddhist sites, but in fact this site was very much the beginning of Guru's initiative. And this area was selected because during that time a lot of area was coming under cultivation, and this middle of Madhya, this city came in the form, and we see it became of religious significance. Not only religious, equally it was commercial center.
It was until late 16th century the city got its name. Culturally called Ambarsar, or the pool of holy nectar, Amritsar in its earlier avatar was known as Ramdaspur after it was founded by 4th Sikh Guru, Guru Ramdas, who commissioned the building of the pond.
If you take the earlier phase for 30 or 40 years, it was called Ramdaspur or Chak Ramdaspur or Guru Ka Chak. And as this holy Sarovar was completed in 1601, with the passage of time, the Harimandir was constructed. It was completed by 1603, and then Adi Granth was by that time completed and formally installed in the precincts of Harmandir. So with the passage of time, this because of this nectar of pool of nectar, this city came to be known as Amritsar.
As the city was founded, the faith which began with the teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji too began to spread, and Amritsar emerged as a locus of Sikh faith. Merchants and artisans too began to settle in the new town and made it their home. That was the beginning of an evolution of a city from a religious site of a holy pool.
इसकी जो नींव थी वो एक रिलीजियस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से रखी गई थी. आज भी इसको हम एक रिलीजियस शहर से जानते हैं, पर ठीक है, इसकी कल्चरल प्लस इंडस्ट्रियल जो वैल्यू है कमर्शियली उतना ही स्ट्रॉन्ग है अमृतसर. एज़ यू नो कि जो अमृतसर है वो सिल्क रूट के ऊपर है, दिल्ली लाहौर को जो रोड अब जाती है उसके ऊपर स्थित है, तो उसकी वजह से अब इसको टूरिज़्म हब भी बना दिया गया है. अमृतसर इज़ नोन एज नाउ टूरिस्ट हब ऑल्सो. तो इसका कमर्शली भी उतना ही स्ट्रॉन्ग बैकग्राउंड है जितना रिलीजियस है.
As the prosperity of this Madhya region flourished, you can see the prosperity of the peasants, and they are visiting this city as their holy city, and At the same time, you can see a large number of trades, business people, they also gathered. And this city became a vibrant commercial center along with the city of pilgrimage. This is in fact going on simultaneously.
By the turn of 16th century, the city got its distinct identity. Harimandir Sahib, the holiest of the holy site for Sikhs worldwide, was built in the reign of 5th Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan Dev. But it wasn't until the 19th century the shrine was referred to as a golden temple. Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the founder of Sikh Empire, a confederate of 12 autonomous Sikh misl, had commissioned the rebuilding of temple complex with marble and copper in 1809. The dome over its sanctum sanctorum was overlaid with gold foil in the year 1830, leading the grand shrine to be called as the Golden Temple.
In fact, it gave the prominence of the Gurdwara. There were earlier Gurdwaras like Goindwal, Khadur Sahib, but the very prominence of the Golden Temple, that established the institution of Gurdwara. And the Golden Temple, in fact, Darbar Sahib, it was called at that time Darbar Sahib. It became the main attraction for the Sikhs of Madhya.
Since then, the Golden Temple has evolved a long way from its humble origin to one of the most revered and holy shrines in the world today. For the next 2 centuries, Amritsar identified itself as a central point of Sikh faith and its teachings. These years also saw the emergence of Sikh misls and their continuous warfare with the Mughal rulers. With the consistent decline of Mughal Empire after Aurangzeb, a Sikh confederacy was established by Maharaja Ranjit Singh after his forces captured Lahore on July the 7th, 1799.
As we see the rise of Sikh misls, Sardars, and rise of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, Amritsar became a center of activity, and with that we see the rise of the city of Amritsar. It became a very important center for all the misldars. They had their own bungas, settlements around the periphery of the Darbar Sahib or Harimandir. So in that sense, we see this city became politically important.
The rise of Sikh confederacy also added to the contours of Amritsar as a city. Maharaja Ranjit Singh got traders from several parts of the country to settle in Amritsar and carry forward the trade that was already established at the times of Gurus. Amritsar was now an important transit point between Lahore, the capital of Sikh confederacy, and other important North Indian cities. That was also the beginning of Amritsar shaping from a religious town to now a political, cultural and commercial hub.
32 prominent Marwari businessmen were invited by Maharaja Ranjit Singh. The businessmen were giving Nazrana, a kind of royalty, to open the shops and establish city's commercial identity. Today, the descendant of those 32 families are among the prominent businessmen of the city. It all began here at this crowded Batti Hatta Chowk, literally a cluster of 32 shops.
पूरा जो प्रांत था उसमें से 52 जो थे ट्रेडर्स बुलाए गए थे जो अलग अलग कित्तों से रिलेटेड थे. तो एक सेंट्रल जो मेन सिटी थी अमृतसर की, उसके अंदर जगह आती है बत्ती हट्टा. गुरु बाज़ार एरिया है अमृतसर का, अगर आप लोग जानते होंगे उसको. तो उस एरिया में उन जो 52 जो ट्रेडर्स आए थे, उन्होंने 32 जो अलग अलग ट्रेड थे वो शुरू किए थे, जिनमें वुड कार्विंग, गोल्ड स्मिथ थे, ब्लैक स्मिथ थे, पापड़ वड़ियाँ बनाने वाले लोग, ऐसे अलग अलग फुलकारी, कढ़ाई, डिफरेंट ट्रेड्स जो थे उस टाइम पे शुरू किए गए थे.
We have specialized areas. We have katuras, we have bazaars, Bazaar Papna, Bazaar Misri. That means on the basis of specialization, we had these settlements around the Golden Temple, and in fact, this city, if you see the Majha region, this city is the only city which became specialized in this way.
Today, the small cluster of shops has grown into a sprawling city. And the commerce that began with a handful of shops have added multitude folds, with city now famous for its spices, food grains and even garments.
स्पाइस मार्केट इज़ देयर, जुत्तीज़ जो पंजाबी जुत्तीज़ हैं वो फेमस हैं, ज्वेलरी, सोने की ज्वेलरी, गोल्ड स्मिथ यहाँ पे हैं, गुरु बाज़ार पूरा एक बाज़ार है जिसमें आपको अलग अलग तरह के सुनियारे मिल सकते हैं। एक ब्राइडल चूड़ा पहनती हैं जिसको हम पंजाबी में चूड़ा बोलते हैं, तो वी हैव अ चूड़ा बाज़ार, फुलकारी, वुड कार्विंग, जो रिलीजियस पालकीज़ हैं वो आज भी यहाँ पे बनती हैं। टेक्सटाइल मार्केट इज़ देयर, कटरा आलूवालिया एक मार्केट है जहाँ पे आज भी आपको होलसेल में यू कैन बाय अ शॉल्स, लोईज़, क्योंकि धारीवाल बहुत नज़दीक था तो धारीवाल की लोईज़ फेमस थी। देन पापड़ वड़ियाँ, खाने की चीज़ों के लिए अमृतसर बहुत फेमस रहा है।
The city was fortified during Ranjit Singh's time to keep off the raiders and hostile armies. Initially, it was a double-walled layer with moats around the city, and those 12 gates were connected through bridges on the moats.
Well, this city was fortified, no doubt. It was fortified in 1825. This wall was constructed, and also around the wall, one moat was, deep moat was also constructed. 12 gates were added to this city, and then Govindgarh Fort, that also came into significance. It became headquarter of our second capital. In fact, during Maharaja Ranjit Singh's time, even before that, Amritsar became almost capital for the Sikh Misildars. During Maharaja Ranjit Singh time, it became a summer capital for Maharaja Ranjit Singh.
These Nanakshahi bricks, which forms an eternal identity of Amritsar, could be seen eking out of many old structures. Sprawling bazaars have now taken over the urban growth in the city's sphere. While the city has emerged today as a centre for trade and wholesale markets, the imprints of Sikh rule could be seen in several spaces like bungas or rest house, katras, havelis and missionary centres of learning, which continues to be the part of modern Amritsar.
मिसिल्स के आगे सरदार बोल सकते हैं, उनको सेनापति बोल सकते हैं, उनको कुछ एरियाज़ दे दिए गए थे, उनकी ज्यूरिडिक्शन होती थी। उस टाइम पे वो एरियाज़ जो थे कटरास में डिवाइड कर दिए गए थे। सो चिट्टा कटरा, घी मंडी, कटरा आलूवालिया, ये सब जो कटड़े थे फिर उन मिसिल्स के अकॉर्डिंग इनके डिफरेंट सेगमेंट बना दिए गए थे। अंदर मंडीज़ बना दी गई थी क्योंकि शहर बहुत पुराने टाइम का बसा हुआ है, भीड़ा था उस टाइम पे, घोड़े वगैरह चलते थे, गाड़ियाँ नहीं होती थी और ट्रेड होना शुरू हो गया था, तो बाहर से भी व्यापारी यहाँ पे आते थे। तो वो इस करके उन्होंने जो कटड़ास थे उनको अलग अलग मार्केट्स में डिवाइड कर दिया गया था।
City in fact became prominent during Maharaja Ranjit Singh because peace was established, and by that time most of the commercial activities almost gained ground. One thing is clear, if you compare population of Amritsar in relation to Lahore, in fact Amritsar remained #1 city in the Punjab. It was only in 1881 that Lahore became a #1 city in the Punjab.
Today, only 6 gates have survived the test of times. Lahori Gate, Hakiman Gate, Hathi Gate, Gandhi Gate, Khazana Gate and Sultan Wind Gate, each standing the testimony of eras witnessed by Amritsar.
Now, by the turn of 20th century, Amritsar was emerging as one of the important centres of political and intellectual activities, inspiring generations for the freedom struggle of the country. It also witnessed certain events which was not just an inspiration for the freedom fighters, but left an indelible mark, or to say, changed the course of freedom movement forever.
Standing tall and distinguished in the maze of ever-growing crowd, Jallianwala Bagh remains a stark reminder of city's tryst with the freedom movement.
This city became important in the sense that most of the Sikhs, they would come to Amritsar for not only pilgrimage but also for inspiration, and the British started noting it. And in that sense, the British and even in the national movement, people whosoever would try to give a voice against the British, they would mostly come to the Golden Temple, like Shri Udham Singh, Ajit Singh in 1709. Most of the even Hindu leaders, political leaders, they would visit the city of Amritsar. So with the passage of time, this city became a source of inspiration for the revolutionaries, even for the reformers also.
The massacre of Jallianwala Bagh had left not just the city, but the entire nation stunned. Rabindranath Tagore returned his knighthood. Motilal Nehru set all his European furniture and clothes on fire. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's father, Janakinath Bose, too renounced his title of Roy Chaudhary that was given by the British. And Mahatma Gandhi started with non-cooperation movement soon.
This area was under terror. The British never allowed the people to move into the streets. There was censorship, and reaction, if you want to say, reaction could be in the form of two developments later on. One, a reception to the Indian National Congress session of December 1990, when large number of people came out and attended that session. That was immediately after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Second, 1920 onwards, we see the Akali, that movement, what we call Gurdwara Reform movement, for the liberation of the Gurdwaras.
As the information spread far and wide, the legitimacy of British Empire suffered severe crack and set the steady course for their ouster. Ferrying scars of one of the bloodiest massacres in the history of undivided India, each space in Jallianwala Bagh is a stark reminder that our freedom was won with massive sacrifices.
Nestled in the bylanes of Amritsar, just a walk-away distance from Golden Temple and Jallianwala Bagh, lies Chowk Jalebiwala. It was this very place where on Ram Navami in the year 1919, the Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs of the city had celebrated the festival. It is said that Hindus sported Muslim skull caps and Muslims sported tilak to once again reinforce that all these three communities of the city are one in freedom's struggle.
The city continued to remain focus of several activities and churning in the years to come as the struggle for independence intensified.
This mobilization of the masses, the mobilization of the Sikh peasantry, that became quite established act after Jallianwala Bagh. And even the British, they also started realizing that this massacre had in fact eroded the legitimacy, and also the people, they are ready to confront the British might.
August 1947. one of the largest, most ethnically diverse nation, India was divided into two. The communities which lived by each other for generations were in the grip of madness as they turned against each other. Amritsar too burned as people scrambled to be on the right side of the border.
We see this city became city of uncertainty, in the sense this Red Cliff line almost virtually divided Madhya by half. And in that sense, these two prominent cities, Lahore in Pakistan and Amritsar in Indian state, and these two prominent cities faced the brunt of partition. And people started moving from Pakistan to the Indian side and from India to the Pakistan side. Both these cities became a center of refugees and almost massacres. Those who are escaping from Pakistan side, they also got massacred on the railway lines, in the roads. This city also faced large number of refugees from India, and those who passed through this area, most of the Muslims, they were butchered, they were killed in the way, and this city also became a center for the refugees.
Set up in August 2017, 70 years after the partition, this museum in city's Hall Bazaar locality is a casket of all that remained after the dust settled. The patrons of the museum has painstakingly collected photographs and preserved other archive remnants related to the partition. In the memory of more than 1 million who lost their lives in the worst massacre India saw on the eve of her independence.
बहुत ज़्यादा अमृतसर ने सफ़र किया क्योंकि हम इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर से सिर्फ 30 किलोमीटर पे हैं, जो अमृतसर शहर है, पर जो अमृतसर डिस्ट्रिक्ट है वो बिल्कुल बॉर्डर के ऊपर है। तो कल्चरली, रिलीजियसली और उसके साथ कमर्शली सारे ही एस्पेक्ट्स थे जिसके वजह से जो अमृतसर था वो कहीं ना कहीं जाके थोड़ा नीचे उसका प्रभाव आया था। बट टाइम के साथ अब इसकी जो है, क्योंकि इस शहर के ऊपर गुरु साहब की बख्शिश है, तो इसने अपने आप को दोबारा फ्लरिश किया।
Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus, they were living together. There was no problem, and there were no even riots in this city. This city was without any riot. But these partition massacres no doubt took place because a lot of uncertainty was there in those times. And even the city, capital city, provincial city of Lahore, that also suffered these massacres in those times. These are different days, but otherwise the city remained mostly peaceful, culturally very stable city.
Torn, bruised and wrecked by partition, Amritsar rose once again, this time for countless children who got the shelter and their bread.
Well, Amritsar today is a bright spot not just in Punjab, but for the whole of India. From being repository of a faith followed by millions worldwide, to seeing birth of a new nation and taking bruises in the process, and once again rising as a socio-cultural phoenix. Amritsar often looks so complete, yet leaves one yearning to know more of its several facets. In our next episode, we'll explore other parts and other facets of this historic, beautiful city. Thank you and goodbye.